Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how you doing?
Good. We got basketball to talk about. We got football to talk about. It's all of a sudden, it's like, hey, there's a bunch of stuff going on.
There is a bunch of stuff going on. Wednesday night, I was at the Ohio State Basketball game against Cincinnati, where Ohio State once again defeated Cincinnati by a score of 64-56 for the second consecutive year.
A tradition unlike any other.
Unlike any other. And the first half, Tom, the first, say, 7 minutes of that game.
Do we have? Why don't we talk about literally anything else?
Let's talk about the last 33 minutes of that game. Even the last 20 minutes, they looked really, really good. This was my second time seeing the team because I was at the Cedarville exhibition game. And this is most people's first time seeing the game. And so I wanted to get your thoughts, if you watched the game, which I believe you did, because you're tweeting about it, how you were watching that first 7 minutes.
Yes, yeah. I had many positive things to say.
But this is the first chance to see DJ Carton and EJ Liddell. And for me, when DJ Carton comes in, things change. Things get a little bit more better. There's more energy. There's more possibilities. I think he's really, really, really good. And he had 4 turnovers last night, and he had some freshman moments. But I wondered, what did you think of him your first time seeing him, other than YouTube highlights?
Yeah, I was impressed with the fact, first of all, that Chris Holtmann trusted him to be out there in the last 10 minutes of a game that was, 4 points, 6 points. This was not like, Ohio State's up by 15, like throw the freshman out there, give him some kind of primetime minutes. He has very clearly earned the right to be out there, which tells you a lot about, I think, what Chris Holtmann thinks about him. And you're right. I mean, there were some freshman moments. There was, I think there was one pass that was like, oh, that was a real ill-advised pass. And you're going to have those as a freshman. But you also started to see a little, you saw flashes. Like you can see the 5-star player in there for sure. Like he had a nice baseline drive at one point. He had a really nice pass where he was like just outside the 3-point arc, kind of took just a couple dribbles in to kind of suck the defense in, and then just threw a little pass, just a little bounce pass back to Caleb Wesson to set up a 3. There was even one where it might have been after that turnover, where Cincinnati had a fast break and had a guy wide open on the wing for 3, and Carton almost got back to block the shot. It was like, where did he come from?
He creates this energy offensively and defensively, and then that creates like a 6-0 run, or he'll throw in a dunk and gets the crowd going, throw in a 3 after that, or he just creates this energy. And I think it's a matter of time until he's starting, because I believe he is the best point guard on the team. But I also kind of like what he brings off the bench, and I don't know that C.J. Walker can bring that same kind of boost.
So like a kind of a Vinnie Johnson microwave kind of role for him?
Right. And for you non-40-year-old and up people, Vinnie Johnson was a sixth man for the Detroit Pistons in a backcourt where there was not room for him because they had Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas. And then once one of those guys got tired, Vinnie Johnson would come in and hit like 6 or 7 straight 19-footers somehow.
And just for you young people, Isaiah Thomas used to be good at basketball-related things. That's if you only remember the 21st century, you'll be baffled by that. But he used to be actually a very good basketball player.
And also for you young players, NBA players used to play every night. They used to not take days off and games off for load management. No. But, I really like Carton. Even EJ Liddell was in there in the final couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. And him and Caleb Wesson had some high-low stuff going. And, there's some possibilities there. But I do get concerned when your best outside shooter is also Caleb Wesson, who is a good outside shooter, but your center, although there is no center in this offense, don't say center. When your best post player is also your best 3-point shooting option, that's going to create some issues.
Well, it limits you. If he misses that shot, that's one fewer big body down low to get that rebound. I mean, that's one thing, one point of concern. But we talked a little bit about the younger guys who were encouraging, I think, last night. some of those older guys were pretty. I mean, Caleb Wesson. First of all, Caleb Wesson looks like a different person.
Does.
I mean, I saw him on the sideline at one of the football games a month or so ago, and I seriously showed you and Caroline Rice the picture and said, "This is Caleb Wesson, right? Like, I'm not wrong about this. Like, it looks like literally a different human being just in his face." And he and Kyle Young, like, that was like, oh, okay, they've got two good, solid bigs in there now. If you've got a talented point guard like Carton who can kind of develop, and you've got a couple bigs there, they've got other guys. You've got other pieces there, Andre Wesson and some of the other guys that they have there. Like, all of a sudden, they already probably have a deeper rotation than some of those, like when Thad Matta would like just play 7 guys. They're probably already more, at least 7, maybe more guys who Chris Holtmann is comfortable playing in a big time.
And this was Dwayne Washington played a better game than he did against Cedarville, which was good to see because he looked completely out of sorts in the exhibition. I think the 3-point line being moved back is going to hurt the Buckeyes a little bit. I saw your tweet. Did they also move the foul line back because they missed like their first 6 or so and were not great throughout the entire game? But they closed well. That's what you want to see. They defended well the entire time. I mean, they don't score for the first 7 minutes and they're only down 6-0.
Yeah.
So it could have gotten ugly.
Yeah, and we've talked about all of these different guys. We haven't mentioned Luther Muhammad yet. Musa Jallow didn't play last night because of injury. I mean, there's a whole lot of guys on this team that are at least going to be contributors. And if you've identified all of those already, like, that's going to be big as the season kind of comes along. Because if you've got that veteran core, and then you've got those young guys who are going to get better. Like, I mean, that's the one thing about freshmen. You know that whatever a freshman looks like in November is not what he's going to look like in March when it really matters. That, you can see already why people are picking this team in kind of the top 3 or so in the Big Ten.
And Caleb Wesson said he's down to 255. Yeah. And he was like 270 last year, which was already much slimmer than what he was as a freshman. I probably came in at like 290.
I was going to say he did not look like 270 for most of his career.
And so, he's working hard. Alonzo Gaffney, I think, is going to, I don't know how much he's going to play this year. Holtmann said he's not going to redshirt anybody. He doesn't plan on it. But Gaffney's just really small, really thin. And last night was not the game for him because Holtmann said it was the most physical season opener he's ever been a part of.
He called it a rock fight, right?
Yeah, and he called it a Big Ten game. And so there's going to be a lot of Big Ten games that Alonzo Gaffney is just not going to be cut out for. Even though he is skilled, he just has to get stronger and bigger. And he will, and that's the guy that he was an in-state guy before going to a prep school, and he's talented, wanted to be a Buckeye. You don't not take him. You just know you're going to put some weight on him, get him stronger, and then he'll eventually be a contributor. But I think I tweeted it during the Cedarville game, like, this team will go as far as DJ Carton takes it, which is kind of farcical because the real answer is maybe Caleb Wesson. But Caleb Wesson was kind of taken out of the game last night by physicality and just really, really not allowing passes to get into the paint. And so there's going to be other guys who have to step in. But the thing is, like, they have guys who could do it each night, just not the same guy. So finding that consistency is going to be difficult.
Yeah, and that's both a good news, bad news thing.
Right.
Because, it's not great if you don't have one guy you can rely on. That's not great. Mm-hmm. But it also means you don't have one guy that the opposing team can just take away, and then you're just out of luck. So, yeah, this is going to be, I think, a little bit of a developmental year for Ohio State. Like, not that they're going to not be good, but what the team looks like right now and what the crunch time lineup looks like right now and who's got the ball in their hands in the last minute of a 1 or 2 possession game right now is not necessarily who you're going to have at the end of the year. And I mean, you look at Carton, and the immediate temptation is to compare this to the D'Angelo Russell year. The supporting cast this year looks so much better than what D'Angelo Russell has. So I think that makes this a pretty intriguing Ohio State season where it's like the baseline is probably higher than it was for that D'Angelo Russell season, which was kind of like, yeah, you make the tournament and maybe you win a game.
Right, and you got a guy who can carry you if he gets hot, like a John Morant, from last year, where you've just got this guy who is better than everybody. But I see DJ Carton more as a Mike Conley than a D'Angelo Russell. I think he's got more offense than Conley and doesn't have Conley's defense. but they're similar in that they create a lot of energy by not necessarily scoring, but they get other guys involved, and the future is bright. I just wonder how long he's going to stick around.
Yeah, that's the question. But if it is just 1 year, you got a possibility of making something out of it if he is just here 1 or 2 years.
And then C.J. Walker is back next year too, so you'll be fine. Today we talked to Ryan Day. Ryan Day also held his weekly radio show where he spends about 55 minutes trying not to give too much away.
Anything away.
Too much away. And as I even scroll through my notes here, I'm like, well, what could he have possibly, was there anything? And, there is a few things. Like he said, Tyreek Smith is as healthy as he's been all year. And he expects him to continue to build and close out very well, but is also getting, we see Javonte Jean-Baptiste.
Thank you.
And Zach Harrison out there quite a bit.
The Rushmen.
So those guys are going to continue to do that. We don't know when, didn't sound like Jonathan Cooper would be playing this week.
No, he was asked about Jonathan Cooper's demeanor today, and Jonathan Cooper, is always one of the most upbeat people around the team, and we won't know officially if Jonathan Cooper's playing this week or not until Friday, but it sure doesn't seem like Jonathan Cooper is going to play this week.
No, and that's too bad. This is a guy who all spring was asked about, your disappointing career, and this is your chance to make good on your disappointing career, and how aren't you so disappointed in your career? And so now he has to just not have the senior season he wanted, and there's no, you can't redshirt now. I think he's probably played more than 4 games, right? And you're not going to hold him out at this point unless he can't physically go. And then even then, it's like, well, do you want to come back? I don't know if he has played 5 games yet. Do you?
The first game he played was the Nebraska game, which was the 4th game.
And
Fifth game.
He's already missed.
He's missed 4, so he has played 4 games. So theoretically, I think he could. And he didn't play last week, 2 weeks ago.
Right. I don't believe he did. Yeah. No, he did not.
Yeah. So yeah, he has not played. It's going to come down to when he's healthy. Theoretically, I guess they could redshirt him, but
if he's healthy, you're not going to keep him out of a playoff.
Right. Exactly. If he's healthy for the Penn State game or the Michigan game, he's not going to hold himself out for that. Because, I don't want to go out on a limb and speak for Jonathan Cooper here, but when Jonathan Cooper envisioned his senior season, he probably wasn't envisioning the Maryland or Rutgers games. So,
yeah,
a lot of his goals are probably still ahead of him, both individually and in terms of the team. So, yeah, if he's good to go, I think I would almost certainly assume that they would play him given everything they have on the line right now.
I guess we should really quickly mention the Ohio State, your number one Ohio State Buckeyes listeners, the number one team in the land for a couple more days. Ryan Day, Ryan Day was asked on, where do you stand on the initial playoff rankings having you number one? He's like, I don't stand anywhere. As we said last show, he does not care. And all of the games are, they're all equal in terms of if you lose one, then, you're kind of screwed. And so if you start looking at the rankings, there's no point in doing that, because if you lose one, the rankings no longer have you at the top and you're way back at the bottom. And so why even involve yourself? And some of the players you saw tweeting after the release saying pretty much the same thing, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And so that's where they are right now.
And this is a team that they're favored by 42.5 points the last time I looked.
Oh, it's dropping. Uh-oh.
It's just, yeah, it's close to a push now. Barely 6 touchdowns. Embarrassing. For a game where you're favored by 6 touchdowns, I don't think this is going to be one of those weeks when Ohio State has any problem getting focused. For one, you're coming off a bye week. There's no reason, no concern about looking ahead to next week against Rutgers. And
could you imagine, Coach? Nobody really saw this upset coming. You lose to Maryland. Do you think you were looking ahead to Rutgers? Yeah, we were very excited to get to New Jersey.
See the bright lights of New Brunswick for ourselves.
And really just destroy the biggest bunch of sucks who have ever sucked. But then we got Maryland.
We wanted to drive the team bus around and count all the cable TV households in the state. We were really looking forward to that, but didn't. Now Maryland has won and ruined everything.
Now you have to hope Maryland wins out to make that loss look better.
I wrote about this in my game prediction that will go up on Friday for the ozone.net. But this is a rare revenge tour type game for Ohio State because they won last year. They've never lost to Maryland, but the defense lost last year. That was as embarrassing a defensive performance as you can pretty much imagine. Like in a bad year, that was one of the low points. Anthony McFarland, 298 yards rushing. There's only one person who has ever rushed for more yards against Ohio State ever.
And his name begins with a T.
And ends with a Mbiakapatuka. So, and if you were an Ohio State fan of a certain age, that probably just sent shivers up your spine.
I was at that game, and he ran directly towards me many, many times in my seats in the end zone.
Yes. But unlike other people wearing scarlet and gray, he did not just literally run over you. So that was something.
I was not wearing a number 35 jersey.
Yeah, that's true.
Number 30, sorry.
Yeah, that was like a historically bad defensive performance, that 95 Michigan game. And it has just been the benchmark for like horrendous defense for a long time. And for Anthony McFarland, who was probably not the back that Tim Biakapatuka was on not as good a team as that 95 Michigan team was, to do that to an Ohio State defense, they've been watching that film all week, I'm sure. I don't think focus is going to be an issue. This seems like a week when the Ohio State defense comes out and just completely locks Maryland down.
Well, I mean, you say 296 yards or whatever, and I'll echo what Greg Schiano said. Yeah, but 200 of those yards came on just 3 carries. So you take those away, and he rushed for maybe like 90 yards on like 15, 16 carries. And that's not bad, Tom.
Yeah, that's not bad. I was trying to remember. I was with Greg Schiano after that game in the kind of media scrum following that game. And I was trying to remember specifics about what he said. I need to go back and look at that article because, boy, that was just...
Did we win?
That was right up there with the Luke Fickell 2013 Michigan game. That was... It was not great.
That what the game last year reminded me of is Revenge of the Nerds, when they're having the Olympics and Ogre is having is arm wrestling one of the Omega Moos from the sorority Omega Moos, and he finally beats her, and he's just like so relieved, like the ultimate relief that he did not lose to her. And that's kind of what, like, Maryland was the Omega Moos, Ohio State was Ogre, and they were relieved walking off that field, and they very easily could have left as losers. I think we were right down in the corner of that 2-point conversion, if I recall correctly.
That pass came right towards me. I have a picture that I took. If you go back through the photo library, or the photo, on the football tab on the front page of the ozone.net, to 2018 photos to Maryland, and go to page 4 out of 5 on that gallery. And I only know that because I pulled that photo today for something. Yeah, you can see. I mean, it was that football landed about 3 feet from me, and it was. I mean, looking at it through the camera viewfinder, it was like, oh, they're about to lose this game because that receiver is open. And was it Tyrell Pigram who was the quarterback at that point?
He was.
It was Pigram. Yeah, he missed an open receiver. He just led him too much. That was it. And that's the difference between Ohio State going to the Rose Bowl and not going to the Rose Bowl, is Tyrell Pigram leading a receiver by about 2 feet too much.
And I think it was Tough Borland or Pete Werner kind of flashed in there and maybe altered the throw, but I went back and looked at that box score actually today and completely forgot. It was like 17-3 at one point, and Maryland was driving. They missed a field goal. They were up again 14 later on throughout the game.
They scored a touchdown right away and had an onside kick that they recovered and then immediately fumbled the ball. It was like there was
an Ohio State pick 6 in there by Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, first play of the second half, Dwayne Haskins threw a pick 6.
Maryland recovered their own fumble for a touchdown. It was pretty pretty amazing, actually.
Well, and Ohio State went right down the field to score the tying touchdown with like 40 seconds left or 30 seconds left. Benjamin Victor had a great reception, like it's a 3-yard touchdown pass. That was another one that was right in front of me. And so then Maryland gets the ball. It's like, all right, well, they're just gonna kneel on this and take it to overtime. No, they went right down the field and had another, they had like a 30 or 40 yard run or pass or something that got them kind of close enough to field goal range that you kind of went, this might not be great. And then I think Ohio State got a sack or something to kind of bail them out and get it to overtime. But then in overtime, I think they had a 4th down that they had to convert. Ohio State, wasn't that the Rashad Berry?
Yep.
That was like 4th and 1 or 4th and 3 in overtime. They had to. And
he had to go bend down to catch that sucker.
That game was every bit as incredible that they somehow managed to not lose that game as that one Purdue game. Was it 2012, 2013 at home, where it was like. They were so close to losing the game on like 8 different occasions and somehow managed to win. And at the end of the game, it was like, how did that happen?
Yeah, they were down 8 in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and Kenny Guyton threw an interception. And you're like, well, it was a good run. Yeah. I think that was going to be Urban Meyer's first loss. And, then it turned out that it wasn't. So, yes, the Maryland game is very much alive in the Ohio State defense's hearts and minds, although Jordan Fuller said on Wednesday, like, I don't really remember much from that. I kind of, I think he said he flushed it. I'm like, well, that's a fitting term for the defensive performance in that one. Ryan Day talked about, kind of expecting different quarterbacks to play, not just, Joshua Jackson, who has kind of been dinged here and there. Tyrell Prigrome didn't even play against Michigan. It was just Jackson and the freshman Lance Lejeune.
Sure.
It is. That's what they were calling him.
Sure.
The thing is, like, Michigan only managed 330-some yards of total offense, and Ryan Day was impressed by Maryland's defense, so that was their best performance of the year. Minnesota, the game before, rushed for 300 yards on them. So I get the feeling that Ohio State can do similar. The weather shouldn't be an issue. It's going to be like 40 and cloudy, and that's perfectly fine. But just Michigan, and we talked about this, I think, on the Patreon show earlier in the week, where it was a disappointing effort by Michigan, but it's I guess you got to give some of the credit to Maryland, which means like maybe this won't be as much of a pushover. Maybe Ohio State may have to punt a few times.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, over under Drew Chrisman punts.
What, 2.5?
2.5 is about what I was going to say. Yeah. And that's, yeah.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah,
I would go over.
Yeah, so would I. There's probably like one in the first half at least. They sucked during the first quarter. They're not very good in the first quarter. So they're not good until the second quarter. We know that. We've heard that from Ryan Day, his wife.
And Nina Day, yep.
So we know that. But yeah, I'd probably go over that. But still, and you hold Ohio State to 52? Didn't work for you last year.
No. Eventually. It just barely didn't work for them last year. I think there's a much better chance that Ohio State matches its point total from last year than Maryland matches its point total. How about that? Is that a spicy take?
That's and in that game last year, they had 3 runs of over 30 yards and 3 completions of over 30 yards. Maryland did. And so you just remember, like, the Anthony McFarland 81, 75, and like 56, but there was also a 60-yard pass, like another 50-yard pass, another 30-yard pass, and a 27-yard run that didn't qualify as a 30-yard run, and a 27-yard pass that didn't qualify as a 30-yard pass.
In the same drive,
just huge chunks of yards, and it's not going to be that easy this time for the Maryland offense against an Ohio State defense that I would say leads the nation in missed tackles. I don't have that stat, but Ryan Day said Maryland's defense is 1 or 2 in missed tackles, and they are solid. But they weren't really tested by Michigan's offense. Obviously, they'll be tested much more this week.
Yeah, I mean, holding Michigan's offense down is like, well, that's you can sort of disperse the credit there as you see fit between Michigan's offense and Maryland's defense. But yeah, I mean, this is this is not Rutgers. This is Maryland is like half a team. They're okay. They're competent in some areas, and so it'll be this will not be 78-0 like the Rutgers game could be, but this could be 40 something. Yeah. I mean, Ohio State being favored by 42 points, they could cover that without scoring 50, I would guess.
Yeah, you'd be surprised if they're not into the 50s, though, right? I mean, if they want to be, they would be.
Well, yes, if they want to be, they will be. I don't know. Going into the final month, right. I wonder how conservative they're going to be with starters the next couple weeks. How much
Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins do you really need?
Right, and that's kind of the question, because, I mean, were you the one that tweeted something about Master Teague having a chance to move into the top 4 in Big Ten rushing the next couple weeks? Because I mean, he's going to get some carries the next couple weeks against defenses.
Just calm down on my one of my bold predictions for the Patreon show for Friday morning, Thursday night. Just hold off on the Master Teague talk, please.
All right. And by the way, if you are interested in our Patreon exclusive podcast, we're doing 2 this week. One went up on Wednesday. One will go up Friday. If you're interested in listening to those, you can sign up at patreon.com/Buckeye Weekly.
Indeed, you can. There was anything else from Ryan Day today regarding Maryland, or anything else that you think that we still need to touch on? I had something in mind, but it's gone now. Maybe as you talk, I can recall it.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't anything particularly thrilling on his radio show today.
Oh, Tom.
I mean, honestly, the thing I remember most about his radio show was the fact that Paul Keels has a cold. That was about the most memorable thing, that Paul Keels kept coughing on the radio show.
The punt protection was interesting.
The punt protection
afterwards.
the punt protection was interesting. That was a question he got from our buddy Steve Hellwagon during the interview session. He was asked about the punt that got blocked against Wisconsin, and the fact that Wisconsin, got in there a couple times before and almost got it, and then got it the third time. And but I thought Steve's follow-up question was kind of interesting to that as well.
Yeah. What did he say? Like, you kind of see it happening. Like, what's the process of stopping it? How do you go about like making sure it doesn't happen during the game? I think, right? And
yeah.
And then, that Ryan Day just talked about how we're not going to let that happen again. That will be fixed. That was something that we were very embarrassed about. And you can see, like, these sessions on Thursday, they're pretty rapid and, they're kind of carefree. It's called the lightning round. And then he starts talking about this, and he kind of gets a little ticked off. Mm-hmm. And not at the question, but at the situation. And so they worked on that in a bye week. And that was really just a complete letdown in terms of scheme, execution. He said there were several people who were at fault.
Yeah, he said there were a couple guys just sounded like just whiffed on blocking assignments, basically.
Yeah, and you wonder, because you see, like, on the block punt, you see Tough Borland reaching out. You wonder, was he the guy that messed up, or was he the guy trying to cover up the other people's mess ups? Mm-hmm. And that's not something where the coaches necessarily are going to tell you who screwed up.
And by necessarily, you mean ever.
Maybe Urban Meyer would, like, sometimes if he wants to motivate somebody by throwing them under the bus in that way and kind of get their name out there. But yeah, that's not what Ryan Day was interested in doing, unfortunately, because it's kind of what we live for.
Yeah, exactly.
Please tell us the names of people who are doing bad so that we can put their names out there, and the people who already hate them have more fuel to continue their rage.
As far as problems go, that's not a bad one to have the way it happened. Mm-hmm. Like, it's something that they can point to as, hey, this is a major problem. We got to get this fixed right now, because, hey, it set up a touchdown. It turned what was a 2-score game into a 1-score game in the third quarter against a good opponent where you couldn't. But it also happened in a game where they ended up winning by 31 points. So it's like, this is a big deal. We have to get this fixed, get people's attention, get the issue fixed, because it didn't cost them last time. That's what coaches love. You have a mistake, but it's in a situation where it doesn't cost you. It's kind of a low stakes mistake. So you fix it before it becomes a high stakes issue.
Yep. And you'll also you guys out there will be happy to know that Ryan Day believes this offense can get a lot better. He said we can do so much better in so many areas. They've only scratched the potential of how good they can be. And basically this offense has yet to play close to its potential, which is, currently they're on pace to be the highest scoring team in Ohio State history. Clearly he wants to be the highest scoring team regardless of sport in Ohio State history. Like, there have been some times where Ohio State, 81 points a game in basketball, 85, 88. It sounds to me like if they can get clicking and then these players would just listen, just listen, you guys, we could be putting 85 points a game on the board.
Well, that should be real exciting if you're an Ohio State fan to hear that. Because, you're not ever going to get so what is the potential here? You're not ever going to get an answer to that question. He's not going to say, this is a team that should score 70 points every week. They probably won't score, this is probably not a team that's going to score 70 points on everyone this year. If they really kept the pedal down, there are teams that are going to hold them under that. Mm-hmm. Is this a team that could score 40 on everyone? You probably. Mm-hmm. You play a good game against anyone they're going to play this year. This is I cannot say that there is a team in the nation that I would say, they would definitely hold Ohio State under 40, even if Ohio State played its best.
He's got this sneaky confidence about it where he's not bragging or anything. He's just saying, if you saw the film and you see the little things that we're not doing, if we did do those things, there would be basically a lot less punting.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but the week after the Maryland game that we're talking about, that was such an unmitigated disaster last year, they went out and hung 62 points on Michigan, which entered as the number 1 team in the country. I mean, what kind of odds would you have gotten on Ohio State scoring over 60 points against Michigan going into that game?
Yeah.
I mean,
you could have made some money.
100 to 1, maybe. So this is one of those things where it's in there. That is probably about as close as you're going to come to Ohio State's offense playing a perfect game. Yeah. I mean, that was as, focused and just consistent execution and just absolutely perfect utilization of the talent of, Paris Campbell doing Paris Campbell things and Chris Olave doing Chris Olave things. And
yes, it was a very consistent execution. You are correct.
Hey, if you want to join our Patreon this week, we're going to talk about Don Brown and Don Brown's comments. That's
man,
we'll have that on Friday's show. Yes. I think Gerd will have some thoughts.
I think Tom will as well. We'll see. So Tom, now comes the time where we begin to finally start thinking about the score prediction. Although you already wrote yours,
I wrote mine while we were waiting for Ryan.
So
Day. Yep.
Go ahead and throw it out there. What are you thinking?
After weeks and weeks of saying you never predict a shutout.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Tom.
This is the week Ohio State's defense. I mean, this is the week Ohio State's defense is out for blood. I mean, this is a very, very good defense. They've been very consistent, but I think this is a week that, they have, I would not be surprised if there was a big red 51 on the screen to start every defensive meeting this week. That, hey, these guys gave up 51, scored 51 points on you last year. Anthony McFarland ran for 298 yards. What do you think about that? You think you can do that again this week? Yeah, you want to do that again? Yeah. What do you think? And and then Chase Young comes out like Latimer from the program or something.
Well, this is Chase Young who has a chip on his shoulder. I'm sure he wants to prove Maryland wrong for never offering him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Citation needed. I went with Ohio State 45, Maryland 0. This just seems like, like 2 years ago when Ohio State lost at Iowa and then came back, and Michigan State had the great misfortune of being in their way the week after they got humiliated at Iowa. Like they might be just real tuned up and just ready to wreck.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Michigan's defense actually shut Maryland out. It was the Michigan special teams that allowed a kickoff return for a touchdown last week that made that score 38-7. I see somehow Maryland scoring a touchdown. I'll go 52-7, but I do, Tom, the whole how much is Justin Fields going to play, but then I also remembered, Master Teague will play, Marcus Crowley will play. Steele Chambers will play. Those guys like Crowley and Chambers may end up rushing for 100 yards, together. And so there will be an opportunity for 14 points from the second and third teamers, perhaps, unless the defense is as good as Ryan Day says. But I still think 52-7, it's doable. It's not out of the realm of the possibility. I mean, that's pretty much the line.
Yeah, I mean, the line's 42.5, and we both picked them to win by 45. So that's
there you go.
Right in the realm with that.
All right, Tom, anything else before we call this show a day?
I think we're good for today. We will talk to you Patreon folks on Friday, and then we will be back for everyone after the game on Saturday for our post-game instant reaction show.
And we will talk to you then. Thank you all for listening, and we will actually make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the Ozone Radio Network with the Buckeye Sloopcast on Mondays and Fridays, Silver Bullets podcast on Tuesdays, and then us, Tuesday nights.
Tuesday night, Thursday
night, sometimes Friday morning if you're
Saturday.
a Patreon, Wednesday if you're a Patreon guy, and
Saturday evening.
And Saturday, like almost more of us than you can handle, but not quite.